Hey guys, today we're back with one of the requests that I've been reading in the comments in the past videos that I've uploaded, which is basically to share my build for SoulBinder. So I want to set everyone's expectations. I'm not an expert in making builds, but I do like making my own builds. And so whenever a new class comes out and it interests me, I generally don't follow um, any established build or whatever others are recommending. In general, I'd like to tinker around the build myself. And, due to that, sometimes I hit the jackpot and I'm able to come up with a decent build. Sometimes it gives me a richer experience in terms of playing, but I wouldn't go so far as saying that I'm making good builds. So just take this with a grain of salt. Um, Also, everything here is just really my opinion, and it's really just based on how I play. So if I like this build, this may be, maybe for you it may not click so well, or maybe you end up liking it, but yeah, I mean, just take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I'm not saying that this will be the best build for Soulbinder. But yeah, so this is basically a support build. I don't do damage builds in general, so this will be a support build. If you're kind of like the guy who likes to deal damage, then this is not for you. But if you are someone who likes supporting your team during competitive PvP, then I do feel like this build is gonna interest you. Okay, so let's get it on then. First off, I want to set expectations. This build plays certain roles. It's not a jack of all trades role. Basically, if you're in PvE, I mean, my take is this has no value add. PvE instances, you're just being carried. I mean, if you go with this build in Komodo Legend or in Lost Style, you generally don't do anything that makes it easier for your teammates. I mean, you basically have no value add. You can have the occasional Lex Eterna and the occasional Soul Spuff to your allies, but outside of that, nothing much. If you go into Yo-Yo, and I'm talking from a perspective where you go in there and you don't have a team, because the who goes to Yo-Yo with a team, right? Um, but yeah, if you go into Yo-Yo, you're basically a punching bag. Um, it may feel good sometimes. You cancer some players, you stop them from doing what they want to do, which is kill other people. But the end result is the same. You end up being a punching bag. Someone comes along, hits you, maybe you survive for a long period of time. Another person comes along, a CM comes along, you end up a punching bag. Wolf is one of the areas where this build really shines. You can be a offensive and a defensive support, and you can also be a disruptor. And when I talk about disruptor, um, it's basically interrupting the momentum of your enemies. I think that's one of the beauties of this build. Woe and Wosi, you're probably more an offensive and defensive support. Um, you don't really do a lot. I mean, in damage, I mean, obviously this build has no damage. One thing it's good for is probably if you have the third line of Mind Erosion, you can deal Mind Erosion to a good deal of people, but it's only for 3 seconds, and then you have to refresh it. Um, for Woe and Wosi, you're probably better off just guarding the Imperium. This build has a lot of skills that can slow down your enemy's attempt to break your Imperium. So I think that's where this build is best used for. Magic Prison is another area where this probably will shine. It's a good orb holder. Has very good survivability, to be fair. Can also be a good disruptor. So I think Magic Prison, Temple of Reincarnation is really where this shines. Especially in Temple of Reincarnation, because the collection area is kind of split, and you do get some space to move around. So you do. Overall, I think these are two maps where this build will shine. Black and white chess, maybe not so much. Maybe mediocre. You probably would end up being a disruptor and maybe just guarding the nodes. Okay, let's go on to equipment then. So this is my equips currently, and these are the details. There are some minor details I didn't include because they weren't so important. So as you can see, I'm using mostly ancient equips. These are the random lines I got from them. Some notable enchantments, and then these are the cards that I generally use. You would notice here I'm using some of the guild rental equips. I tend to just swap my usual equips with them if I've already maxed them out. Otherwise, I don't use them so much. I also do replace the cards depending on the situation. Like for offhand, sometimes I go Basilisk. For the armor cards, I sometimes go Elemental card instead of Lolly Ruri. Lolly Ruri is really nice if you are in large scale battles where a lot of people are hitting you, and sometimes even weaker people are hitting you. Because when weaker people are hitting you, you tend to gain much out of it because Lolly Ruri triggers heal. But if you're up against kind of strong players, heavy hitters, you're better off just switching over to elemental cards. Sometimes I also do Dark Lord Star for my shoes card. That's really if I notice, say for example, I go into Wolf Arena or in Magic Prison, I notice that a lot of the enemy DPS doesn't have Edgar card. Then I sometimes switch over to Dark Lord. You may notice there is Straight Star in my alternate cards. Sometimes if I notice that some of the players I'm playing with doesn't have high stun resist, I generally flick them with E-stun because E-stun even at level 1 has 100% chance to stun your opponents. And if they don't invest in stun resist, then it's a good means of stopping them in their track. Now, obviously, the final this isn't the final setup that I want. I obviously do aspire for something better, which is this. So basically, I want to get rid of my accessories. I want to swap them over to AE, which has tenacity 4, and potentially the RNG line should be max HP plus 6%. Also, I do want to upgrade some of the enchants that I have, and I obviously do want to have either Edgar or ML. Now, Edgar or ML, depending on which one you get and which one you use, will significantly change the way you play this build. If you get ML, you probably would spend a lot of time hiding and then just really debuffing your enemies and supporting your allies while not really jumping in so much. But if you do get Edgar, then obviously you are probably gonna be taking in a lot of the hits while debuffing your enemies. I also do want to change to some skill reduction gears, so skill damage reduction gears. Sorry for the lazy edit here, but yeah, basically I want to change them to these two so I get more skill damage reduction. But the current setup is also good. Obviously, even if I do get some of these cards, I still want to swap them out sometimes. um, Especially on the armor card. The armor cards is very, very crucial actually. One problem with Soulbinder really is the helmet card. You just really can't get rid of it. You're stuck with DI Star. If you don't have Dark Illusion Star card, it's gonna be so much more difficult to play this build or to play this class as a whole, I'd say. Unless you have another Soulbinder who just constantly casts Soul of Ninja 2. Okay, stats allocation. This is how my stats looks like. Nothing special, really. Uh, quick, probably just quick reasons on why I chose these stats. So Vit obviously increases your max HP. It has an added bonus to death. It also has stats ratio resist for the following statuses. Same thing with int, right? It increases max SP, it gives you bonus mdef, and it has some additional resistances. And then dex obviously is to get rid of VCT, and some additional resist. You may notice I put in blind and then there's an asterisk. So it's a long discussion, but basically, depending on the debuff, depending on the skill that applies the blind, there are two separate formulas for the stats ratio, and one type of blind can be the chance can be reduced by increasing your dex. The other type of blind is different. Okay, skills allocation. Now, this one, you're a little bit free to play around with this. I wouldn't really say it's necessarily, you necessarily have to follow this, but some of the key things you really do want to take note of. Soul Gathering, you probably don't want to put it above level 10. You only want to get it to get the luck bonus. Above level 10 is probably not so useful. Soul Walker, absolute must. It's one of your staple skills. Soul of Priest, a little bit. One thing I like about Soul of Priest is that it also decreases the SP of your enemies, which is very useful for Magic Prison, especially with teams that aren't so organized, and they don't really communicate well with each other. So you generally just like putting it on their DPS so they run out of SP really quick. Soul of Summoner, I don't use this a lot. That's why I don't really put a lot of skill points on it. S-Wu is a very important skill. Um, S-Wu slows down your enemies. It basically turns them into small size and then it slows them down even if they have ML. So, um, once you do that, you're able to kite them more effectively because they're slower, right? I mean, faster enemies are much more difficult to kite. Soul of Ninja, an absolute must. Even if you don't really have any slayers or you don't have any magic dealing allies, Soul of Ninja is probably a must amongst your skills. Soul of Wizard, also a must. You can use it during clutch moments or even to allow your DPS to dive in without having to think about taking in so much damage in the process. And Soul of Crusader, obviously, and Soul of Rogue. These are some of the things that you just really can't can't go without. And then obviously Cowpay. Cowpay is the bread and butter of this build. Cowpay has an S-tier function wherein it recovers 20% of your lost SP every time an attack misses. When you use a Soul Walker, all physical attacks misses on you. When you use Soul of Sage, you basically get LP effect on yourself, which makes some of the AoE magic skills miss on you. Um, Also, once you get Kyrie from your Saint, some of the physical attacks will miss on you. And so Cowpay is really the skill that replenishes your HP. SK, I don't have it maxed here because to me, really, it doesn't serve a lot of functions. I mean, sometimes if I can squeeze it in my skill rotation, I'll probably turn the FS or the Saint of our enemies into large so that they take more damage from my allies. Mind Erosion is a very important skill as well. I probably recommend you max this out. Mind Erosion reduces the max HP of your enemies by 15%. And so if you put souls on them, or if you have the third line of the rune and you damage them, it effectively reduces 15% of their max HP. That's a lot. Okay, next off, my runes. So, not sure if you can see this. I know it's a little bit small, but um, generally, merciless, endless suffering. Wow, that sounds redundant. But yeah, merciless, endless suffering, the one that enhances soul judgment, definitely a must. Soul judgment is one of the skills that makes you very tanky. I mean, it basically reduces the damage. It cuts the damage by 50%. And so it's a very important skill. Um, Legerdemain Rune, which is for Soul of Rogue. I do have it because I like having to disarm offense on my enemies, um, especially those that are equipped with Mark Card. You won't know that, but yeah, I mean, it's just one of the things that's good to have. Thought Corruption would have been nice if I could have gotten a triple triple golden star, but unfortunately I don't. I just have a double golden star on this. But yeah, the CC effect rest, the negative CC effect rest is very useful, especially if you have a GS ally or if you have allies that deals status debuffs. Would have been nice if I got the VCT edition, but sadly I didn't. Underworld Roamer is very important, especially in MP. The third line restores all of your SP, basically. So if you're low in SP, you just use Underworld Roamer. Sorry, the Soul Walk, and then it replenishes your SP. Without this, um, it would be difficult. It would be really hard to play this build. And then Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness is very. I mean, it's one of the staple skills of this build. I'd say Soul Judgment plus Heart of Darkness, try to put it up at all times. And sometimes it's difficult to target the right job or the right enemy to cast Heart of Darkness on. It's all right. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can put it on the enemy's priest or on their CM. I mean, obviously they won't be able to damage their allies, but you see, this has fear, and and so basically, if they go to their stack, if they go back to their stack, there's a chance that they will induce fear on their allies, and then that really puts them out of position. And so obviously it's better if you put it on a DPS that deals AoE damage, but if not, if you mistakenly put it under Saint or under CM, it's still okay. And then you have Adversary of Magic. This is another rune that's really, really important. Because without this, you will not have Soul of Sage. And if you don't have Soul of Sage, your survivability gets cut down by 50%. You really have to rely a lot on Soul of Sage and Soul Walker. So you have to make sure you have these. So yeah, this is how I set it up. Feel free to copy it. But if you really want this to be effective, it's the same thing with any job. You just really have to be lucky on your runes. Okay, now I'm almost at the end, but yeah, some of the highlights of this build. Positive side, my damage reduction is 99.5%. Magic damage reduction, because I use GTB, is 134.5%. Skill damage reduction is 51%, and the medium size reduction is 104%. So this is a good stuff about this build. Now going to the negative stuff, auto attack reduction is just 5%. And this is important to know because what you realize is the bane of this build is DAs. It's a Sacri type DAs. Um, even though you have Unreal, because of the animation of Soulbinder, in general, DAs can still probably get in one slash onto you. And sometimes that one slash is all they need to kill you. I mean, because you get taunted and then that's it. Obviously, if you're very far, I mean, if the distance between both of you is big, you can still cast Unreal or, make them sit. And then that gives you the chance to really disable them. But yeah, just to set expectations, these will be one of the weaknesses of this build. My refined magic reduction is only 36%. I don't think it's the build necessarily, but it's really because I don't have a lot of plus 15 headgears. And so which basically makes it another negative part of this build. Um I do try to compensate with skill damage reduction and magic damage reduction. But if you fight some of the really, really strong players, you will notice that this is not enough. Another negative aspect, and this is the reason why I tend to switch cards a lot of times, is my wind, poison, and holy reduction is less than 50%. Um, and so when I face ninjas, especially the strong ones, and they cast Ogare or they put Wind Soul on me, I generally die really quickly. Next off is because you're locked onto DI star, you will be you're pretty much prone to sleep and fear. And so if you can get a lot of fear resist from your enchantments, I recommend you try to stack up on it. Sleep, pretty much nothing you can do about that. It's just how it is. You just probably have to deal with it and just try to survive along the way. But yeah, because you're locked onto DI star, these will be your main challenges. So yeah, that's it for my build. I will be making another video showing how to play the build in certain scenarios. It's gonna be a separate videos because I'm already at 20 minutes and I really do want to work into reducing the duration of these videos. But yeah, I'll be making another vid. But if you do want to see how I use this build, I have other videos, especially for Wolf, Magic Prison, and also War of Imperium that I've uploaded in the channel. I've put some in the description, but if you browse through my channel, you should be able to see them. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you do have any questions or any clarifications on this build, do let me know. As far as the skill rotation and my skill bar and how I do play this build, I have another video in progress and I will be uploading it to show it to you guys. So again, thanks everyone and you have a nice day.